Welcome to Premium English Hub, where fluency becomes confidence. Let's master English together. Today, we are going to explore an important question. Why do some people stay calm under pressure, while others feel overwhelmed very quickly? Many people experience stressful situations every day. It may happen at work, during studies, in difficult conversations, or when facing unexpected problems. In these moments, the mind often becomes busy, and emotional reactions become stronger than clear thinking. However, if you observe carefully, you will notice something interesting. Some people handle pressure very differently. Instead of panicking or reacting immediately, they slow down their thoughts. They observe the situation calmly and choose their response carefully. Even when the problem is serious, their mind remains clear and focused. Many people believe this ability comes from personality or natural talent. They think calm thinkers are simply born with stronger emotional control. But this belief is not completely accurate. In reality, calm thinking is a mental skill that can be learned and practiced over time. The difference often comes from small habits inside the mind. Calm thinkers train themselves to pause before reacting. They create a small moment of space between the problem and their response. This small pause may look simple, but it protects the mind from confusion and emotional overload. In this guided reading lesson, you will learn how calm thinkers manage pressure in a healthier and more effective way. You will also discover small mental shifts that help protect clarity during stressful moments. These ideas can improve not only your thinking, but also your communication, decisions, and daily confidence. But before we explore these powerful habits, we must first understand something important. Why does pressure affect the human mind so strongly in the first place? To understand calm thinking, we first need to understand what happens in the mind when pressure appears. When people face stress, the brain quickly moves into a protective mode. This reaction developed to help humans survive danger. The brain prepares the body to react quickly, but this fast reaction often reduces the ability to think clearly. In modern life, most pressure does not come from physical danger. Instead, it comes from deadlines, responsibilities, expectations, or difficult conversations. Even though these situations are not life-threatening, the brain sometimes reacts as if they are serious threats. Heart rate increases, thoughts become rushed, and emotions become stronger. When this happens, the mind begins focusing on problems instead of solutions. People start imagining negative outcomes and worrying about things that may never happen. The brain becomes crowded with fast thoughts, and clear thinking becomes difficult. In this state, many decisions are made quickly and emotionally rather than logically. Another reason pressure becomes overwhelming is the way people interpret situations. Often, the situation itself is not the biggest problem. The real pressure comes from the meaning the mind gives to the situation. If the mind believes something is extremely dangerous or impossible, stress increases immediately. For example, two people may face the same challenge. One person may think, "This problem will destroy everything." The other person may think, "This is difficult. But I will solve it step by step." The situation is the same, but the mental interpretation is very different. Because of this difference, their emotional reactions also become very different. This is where calm thinkers begin to separate themselves from others. They do not automatically believe every stressful thought that appears in the mind. Instead, they slow down and observe the situation more carefully. This ability creates a powerful advantage when pressure appears. But how do calm thinkers actually do this? The answer begins with one important mental principle that changes how the mind reacts to pressure. Now that we understand why pressure affects the mind so strongly, we can explore the main principle used by calm thinkers. The secret is not that they experience less pressure. In reality, they face the same stressful situations as everyone else. The difference is how they respond to those moments. Calm thinkers create a small space between the situation and their reaction. When pressure appears, most people react immediately. Their emotions take control, and their mind begins racing with fast thoughts. Calm thinkers, however, pause before responding. This small pause allows the brain to regain balance. This pause may last only a few seconds, but it changes everything. Instead of reacting emotionally, the brain has time to observe the situation more clearly. Thoughts become slower, and the mind begins focusing on what actually matters. This moment of observation protects the mind from confusion and panic. Another important part of calm thinking is awareness. Calm thinkers pay attention to their own thoughts and emotions. When they notice stress rising, they recognize it instead of fighting it. This awareness prevents emotions from controlling their decisions. When the mind becomes aware of its own reactions, it gains control over them. Instead of being pushed by stress, the person begins guiding their response. This mental shift creates stability, even in difficult situations. Calm thinkers also understand that pressure often exaggerates problems. When the mind is stressed, small difficulties may appear much larger than they truly are. By slowing down and observing carefully, calm thinkers allow the mind to see the situation more realistically. This principle forms the foundation of calm thinking. But calm thinkers also practice several simple habits that help them protect their mental clarity. The first of these habits involves slowing down the mind's initial reaction. One of the most important habits of calm thinkers is slowing down the first reaction. When pressure suddenly appears, the mind often reacts instantly. Emotions rise quickly, thoughts become intense, and the body prepares to respond. This immediate reaction is natural, but it is not always helpful. The first emotional response is often exaggerated. The brain tries to protect itself by assuming the situation is more dangerous than it actually is. Because of this, people may feel panic, frustration, or fear even when the situation is manageable. If a person reacts during this emotional moment, their decision may be rushed and unclear. Calm thinkers understand this pattern very well. Instead of reacting immediately, they pause for a brief moment. This pause may last only a few seconds, but it allows the emotional intensity to decrease. During this short pause, the brain begins moving from emotional reaction toward logical thinking. A simple pause can completely change the way the mind handles pressure. When the mind slows down, breathing becomes calmer and thoughts become clearer. Instead of focusing on the problem emotionally, the brain begins observing the situation more objectively. This habit does not remove pressure completely, but it reduces its influence. The mind becomes less reactive and more thoughtful. Over time, this small pause becomes a powerful mental habit that protects clarity during stressful situations. However, slowing down the first reaction is only the beginning. Calm thinkers also use another habit that helps them reduce unnecessary stress. They learn to focus only on the things they can actually control. Another powerful habit of calm thinkers is focusing only on what they can control. When people feel pressure, their minds often begin worrying about many different possibilities. They imagine worst outcomes, other people's reactions, and situations that may never even happen. This type of thinking creates unnecessary mental noise. The problem is that most of these worries are outside our control. When the mind spends energy on things it cannot influence, stress grows stronger, thoughts become heavier, and the situation begins to feel more overwhelming than it truly is. Many people feel pressure not because the problem is impossible, but because their attention is scattered in too many directions. Calm thinkers train their minds to narrow their focus. Instead of thinking about everything at once, they ask a simple question. What part of this situation can I actually influence right now? This question immediately removes many unnecessary worries from the mind. When attention moves toward controllable actions, clarity begins to return. The mind stops imagining endless possibilities and starts focusing on practical steps. Even small actions can reduce stress because they restore a sense of direction. For example, during a difficult project, a person may worry about the final result, other people's opinions, and possible mistakes. These thoughts create pressure, but do not help solve the problem. A calm thinker, however, focuses on the next useful step that can be taken immediately. This shift in focus simplifies the situation and protects mental energy. Instead of fighting with uncertainty, the mind works on clear actions. Over time, this habit becomes one of the strongest tools for handling pressure. But calm thinkers also understand another important truth. When the mind is under pressure, situations often appear more complicated than they actually are. Learning to simplify the situation is another key habit that protects mental clarity. Next, another habit that helps calm thinkers handle pressure is the ability to simplify the situation. When people feel stressed, the mind often begins imagining the entire problem at once. Thoughts jump from one concern to another, and the situation starts looking bigger and more complicated than it truly is. This happens because pressure reduces mental clarity. The brain tries to solve everything at the same time, which creates confusion instead of solutions. When too many thoughts compete for attention, the mind becomes overwhelmed and decision-making becomes difficult. Yet calm thinkers use a different approach. Instead of trying to solve the whole problem immediately, they break the situation into smaller parts. They focus on one simple step at a time. This method reduces mental pressure and makes the situation easier to manage. For example, imagine someone facing a large project with many responsibilities. Thinking about the entire project at once can create stress and hesitation. A calm thinker will simplify the situation by asking a clear question. What is the next small step I can take right now? When the mind focuses on one step instead of the entire challenge, clarity returns. Small actions begin moving the situation forward, and the feeling of control increases. Step by step, the larger problem becomes manageable. This habit works because the brain handles small tasks more effectively than complex problems. By simplifying the situation, calm thinkers protect their mental energy and avoid unnecessary stress. However, there is one more habit that plays a powerful role in calm thinking. It involves something that happens inside the mind every day. The way we speak to ourselves during stressful moments can either increase pressure or restore calm thinking. One of the most powerful habits of calm thinkers is controlling their internal dialogue. Internal dialogue is the conversation that happens inside our mind. It is the way we talk to ourselves when we face problems, pressure, or uncertainty. Most people do not notice this inner voice, but it strongly influences emotions and decisions. When pressure appears, the internal dialogue often becomes negative. The mind may start saying things like, "This is impossible," or "Everything will go wrong." These thoughts increase anxiety and make the situation feel much more dangerous than it actually is. When the mind repeats these messages, stress grows stronger and clear thinking becomes difficult. Calm thinkers are aware of this pattern. Instead of accepting every negative thought, they observe their internal dialogue and adjust it. They replace harmful thoughts with more balanced and constructive ones. This does not mean they ignore the problem. It means they choose thoughts that help them respond calmly and logically. For example, instead of thinking, "I cannot handle this situation," a calm thinker might say, "This is difficult, but I will solve it step by step." This small change in language reduces emotional pressure and helps the mind focus on solutions instead of fear. The brain reacts strongly to the words we repeat inside our minds. Supportive internal dialogue creates stability, while negative dialogue increases stress. By guiding their thoughts carefully, calm thinkers protect their mental clarity, even during challenging moments. Over time, this habit becomes automatic. The mind learns to respond with calm and constructive thinking instead of panic. This internal stability allows calm thinkers to make better decisions and handle pressure more effectively. Because of these habits, calm thinkers often appear more confident and balanced in difficult situations. But the real advantage becomes even clearer when we look at how calm thinking improves decision-making. When the mind remains calm under pressure, decision-making becomes much clearer. Stress often narrows the brain's attention and forces it to react quickly instead of thinking carefully. In this state, people may overlook important details or choose actions that create new problems. Calm thinkers experience the same pressure, but their mental habits protect their clarity. Because they pause before reacting, their brain has time to process information more logically. Instead of rushing into a decision, they observe the situation and consider possible outcomes. When the mind slows down, it becomes easier to recognize useful options. The brain begins organizing information more effectively, and solutions that were hidden during stress start becoming visible. This is why calm thinkers often appear more thoughtful and precise when facing challenges. Another advantage of calm thinking is emotional balance. Strong emotions can distort judgment and push people toward impulsive choices. When the mind remains steady, emotions lose some of their influence. The person can evaluate the situation based on facts rather than fear or frustration. Calm thinking also improves communication. During stressful situations, many misunderstandings happen because people speak quickly without thinking carefully. A calm mind allows a person to choose words more thoughtfully, which reduces conflict and improves cooperation. Because of these benefits, calm thinkers often solve problems more efficiently than others. They are not avoiding pressure, or they are simply responding to it in a clearer and more controlled way. Over time, This habit creates stronger confidence and better results in difficult situations. To understand this idea more clearly, it helps to look at a simple example of how calm thinking changes the outcome of a stressful moment. Imagine two colleagues working on an important project. Suddenly, they receive a message that the deadline has been moved forward and they now have much less time to complete the work. Both people face the same situation and the same pressure, but their reactions are very different. The first person reacts immediately with frustration and panic. His thoughts begin racing and he starts imagining everything that could go wrong. Because his mind is overwhelmed, he struggles to focus on the actual tasks that need to be completed. Instead of solving the problem, his stress makes the situation feel even more difficult. The second person experiences the same pressure but responds differently. Instead of reacting instantly, she pauses for a moment and observes the situation calmly. She takes a breath and begins asking simple questions. What part of the project is most important right now? What step should be completed first? By focusing on one action at a time, she gradually organizes the work that needs to be done. The problem that first appeared overwhelming becomes a series of smaller tasks. Step by step, progress begins to appear. This example shows how calm thinking changes the outcome of stressful situations. The problem itself did not change, but the way the mind responded created very different results. Panic increased confusion, while calm thinking created clarity and direction. When people train their minds to respond calmly, they gain more control over difficult moments. Instead of being controlled by pressure, they learn to guide their actions with clearer thinking. Because of this, calm thinkers often rely on a simple mental routine whenever they face stressful situations. This routine helps them protect their clarity and respond more effectively. When pressure suddenly appears, calm thinkers often follow a simple mental routine. This routine helps the mind slow down and return to clear thinking. Instead of reacting emotionally, they guide their mind through a few small steps that restore control. The first step is pausing. Even a short pause of a few seconds can change the brain's reaction. During this moment, the person allows the initial emotional response to settle. Breathing becomes calmer, and the mind gains a small distance from the situation. The second step is observation. Calm thinkers carefully observe what is actually happening instead of immediately believing every stressful thought. They look at the facts of the situation and try to understand it clearly. This step reduces confusion and prevents the mind from exaggerating the problem. The third step is focusing on control. Instead of worrying about everything that might happen, they direct their attention to actions they can influence. This shift helps the mind move from worry to problem solving. The fourth step is taking the next small action. Calm thinkers rarely try to solve everything at once. They choose one useful step and begin working on it. Once the first step is completed, the next step becomes easier to see. This routine may appear simple, but it protects mental clarity during stressful moments. With practice, these steps become natural habits that guide the mind whenever pressure appears. However, even with helpful routines, some habits can quietly increase stress. Recognizing these mistakes helps people protect their calm thinking more effectively. Even when people try to stay calm, certain habits can quietly increase pressure in the mind. Many individuals repeat these habits without realizing how strongly they influence their emotional state. When these patterns appear, stress grows faster and clear thinking becomes more difficult. One common habit is reacting too quickly. When pressure appears, many people immediately respond without giving themselves time to think. This quick reaction is usually driven by emotion instead of logic. As a result, decisions may become rushed and the situation may feel more chaotic than necessary. Another habit that increases pressure is imagining the worst possible outcome. The mind begins creating negative scenarios that may never actually happen. These imagined situations feel real to the brain and can increase anxiety even when the real problem is manageable. Distractions also play a major role in increasing stress. When the mind constantly shifts between tasks, messages, and notifications, concentration becomes weaker. In stressful situations, this lack of focus makes it harder for the brain to process information clearly. Negative internal dialogue is another powerful source of pressure. When the mind repeatedly tells itself that a situation is impossible or overwhelming, the emotional response becomes stronger. These thoughts reduce confidence and make problems appear larger than they really are. Finally, many people expect immediate solutions. When progress does not appear instantly, frustration begins to grow. But most complex situations require patience and gradual action. Calm thinkers understand that solving problems step by step is often the most effective approach. When these habits are recognized and reduced, the mind becomes much more stable during difficult moments. Pressure does not disappear completely, but it becomes easier to manage. With practice, calm thinking can become a reliable skill that protects the mind in challenging situations. Now that we have explored these ideas, we can bring everything together in one final message about calm thinking and mental strength. Throughout this lesson, we explored how calm thinkers handle pressure and protect their mental clarity. Many people believe calmness during difficult situations is a natural personality trait. However, calm thinking is not something people are simply born with. It is a skill developed through awareness, practice, and small mental habits. We learned that pressure often becomes overwhelming because the mind reacts too quickly. Emotional responses appear before the brain has time to think clearly. Calm thinkers reduce this reaction by creating a small pause between the situation and their response. This pause protects clarity and prevents emotions from taking control. We also saw how focusing only on controllable actions helps reduce unnecessary stress. When attention shifts away from things we cannot influence, the mind becomes lighter and more focused. Instead of worrying about uncertain outcomes, calm thinkers concentrate on practical steps that move the situation forward. Another powerful habit is simplifying problems. Large challenges often feel overwhelming when the mind tries to solve everything at once. By breaking situations into smaller steps, calm thinkers make progress easier and reduce mental pressure. Controlling internal dialogue also plays an important role. The way we speak to ourselves during stressful moments strongly affects how we feel. Supportive and constructive thoughts help maintain balance, while negative thoughts increase anxiety. In the end, calm thinking is not about avoiding pressure. Pressure is a natural part of life. The real skill is learning how to respond to pressure without losing clarity. When the mind learns to pause, observe, and simplify problems, stressful situations become much easier to manage. With practice, These habits become natural reactions. Over time, the mind becomes stronger, clearer, and more confident when facing challenges.